Hey everybody, welcome back to Video. So Taryn got a really fun and very random episode, guys, this evening because my dreams have come true. Death Crimson 2 how it has a full English translation on the Sega Dreamcast. If you know two things about me, if you watch my channel, I absolutely love the light gun genre and I love a janky game, and Death Crimson 2 delivers both in spades. What other game allows you to shoot tanukis in the plums for bonus points? Honestly, this game is absolutely absurd. It is not very good and I love it for all of those reasons. Now this translation was done by Derek, also known as Ateam, as well as Walnut Filler and Wire Crackpot, as some other people I'm sure helped test along the way. This is probably the most lovingly translated and bonus packed thing I've ever seen come to Dreamcast, and it is for a game that pretty much nobody out there loves unless they love it for all the right and wrong reasons. This is different than Death Crimson Ox, which did come out on Dreamcast as well. This has a lot more story, and there's actually a visual novel component to it. All of this has been translated over into full English, maintaining the humor that the game had, as well as making it more conversational. And when I say if you've never experienced Death Crimson game, you are missing out, I 100% mean it. The original game on Sega Saturn is widely considered to be the worst Sega Saturn game ever made, and I would put it in the top 5 for worst video games of all time. Now, Death Crimson 2 I absolutely love for all the right and wrong reasons. It is hokey, it is cheesy, it has got that schlocky horror vibe going for it. It has an explosion right now that looks like it was ripped from Aqua Teen, Hunger Force, and Master Shake Throw something. This is just a 10 out of 10 in my book, even if it only is like a 5 out of 10 actual game. This raises to the level as far as story, action, and content to something like Deadly Premonition. You either absolutely love it or you cannot stand it, but for the longest time all of these story elements were kept from the English audience. We had no idea what was going on in the story, and this version in particular had a lot of story that we really wanted to know. And I will say, for as janky as this game is, the story actually does a good job of conveying some decent emotions, and Ateam and his collaborators have done an amazing job of translating it into conversational English so you both understand what is going on as well as get the context of the story. Now this is going to be peppered in with your standard traditional light gun level, so you're going to get a lot of that as well. This basically takes a light gun game and expands upon it in so many very weird directions. You're going to get a lot of in-engine cutscenes, a lot of dialogue, and you're also going to get some Resident Evil style survival horror sections that kind of feel like Code Veronica married to Illbleed, two of my favorite Dreamcast games, so you know they're going to be good. But if you've never played this game before, I will say the shooting segments are very competent. Compared to the original Death Crimson on Sega Saturn, the sequel on Dreamcast is 1000% better. I know I usually say 100%, but I'm adding another decimal place for this game. It is fun, it is charming, the graphics are good, and trust me, if you ever saw what Death Crimson on the Saturn looked like, you would know that the company that developed this was not great at making art back then. But I just love the fact that it's in English. This is such a strange thing. I've known about this title for the longest time, but I had no idea what was going on, and you'll see now we are in these more survival horror Resident Evil-esque levels. This is not just a light gun game, it's going to have basically a full adventure mode as well as visual novel text adventure as well. It's three very different genres all mashed together, and somehow it works, but I will say that the free moving camera in these segments is absolutely janky. It makes Resident Evil's camera look like a 20 out of 10. But the real reason I love this translation is because it is 100% wholly unessential. This is the type of game that not anyone was begging to understand the story on, but it's the type of game that you should be playing in English to appreciate just what the developers did. And that's why Ateam has done a spectacular job. There's so many different games out there that you could translate, but having a love of this jank, this type of genre of game, the kusoge out there, which is not good, but we still love it. This is what I love to see in a project. It is dedication, it's passion, and it's wanting to bring something very strange to a modern audience so you can appreciate just how weird it is as well. Now after this musical interlude here, and I will say the music in this game is always a 10 out of 10 for real. I will explain a lot of how this game works, how to get it to function better, how it runs on different hardware, and everything else, because there are some things you do want to know if you want to enjoy this. But I will say the music in Death Crimson has always been amazing, so go ahead and listen for like 45 seconds and I'll be right back.
そこから中に入りたいんですが。
あっちにも入り口あるだろ。
Honestly, the music in Death Crimson, the entire franchise, has always been some of my favorite music on the Dreamcast, and you'll hear there, you do get full Japanese voice acting to go along with all of the translated English text. Now, there is something very interesting about how this game works depending on what hardware you're using it on. I tested this on an original Dreamcast via VGA to my CRT television with a Japanese light gun, and it worked totally fine. I tested this on Demule with my gun for IR, and it also worked totally fine. But if you're on Demule, there is an issue where you can sometimes skip through the text because the A button seems to be randomly triggered at all times from that light gun. I figured out how to make it work. Just assign yourself as player 2, put a controller on player 1, and just tape down any of the face buttons. The game works perfectly fine from there, but do be aware that if you use Demule with something like a gun for IR, you do need to do that. I was actually chatting with Ateam while I was capturing this footage and told him about that, so maybe that's something that he could get into a new build if he can find why that happens, but honestly, it doesn't really matter. Bring your tape. And you'll see here that Yuri has Matt McNeely here, a very strange character who's going to give you another gameplay component. He is going to say that this museum is going to blow up shortly, and you need to figure out a way out. And this is where the game really starts feeling like Ill Bleed to me. There's going to be different puzzles and different traps within this room that you can either trigger or avoid depending on how well you play. I'm just letting you kind of read through the text there as well. You'll see we have an 8-minute time limit, and that timer definitely is ticking down as a real 8 minutes, and now we need to navigate around this area figuring out how to actually not blow up. Now there are some cheats implemented in this as well. If you hold down the shoulder buttons, you can do stuff like add more credits and add more time, but honestly I think you should probably just play this straight, at least for your first attempt. And you'll see here we have our friend the Tanuki there with those two massive plums hanging off the bottom of him, and he is going to actually poison us and cause us to lose 15 seconds within the game. Now there are consequences to these segments, and they're segments in a light gun game. It just is absolutely wild. But of course they also have visual novel segments, and I love how that character who just flashed on the screen there, his mouth does not seem to be in any way, shape, or form actually connected to his jaw. Look for that, it is very strange. But old Greg there is talking to Lily, the psychiatrist, and one of the characters from Death Crimson Ox comes in and starts asking for a place to stay overnight. This is also a visual novel game, and of course this is something that you would never be able to understand if you couldn't read Japanese in the first place until Ateam and his friends came along and brought this to us. And that is why, again, this is just such a fun time. It's a janky game, it is a needless translation, and that is what I love, because honestly, I love this genre of weird, and it's one of those genres of games that doesn't see that much love put into it. But between this Death Crimson 2 translation and the recent Germs English translation, it seems like I'm getting all of the weird fun stuff I've always wanted. And I love that he asked to stay with Lily for the night. This game does have a sense of humor that has been perfectly translated over to keep that original intent while also modernizing it and bringing it into the English language. And of course, again, it is Death Crimson, which means you're going to get these light gun segments, and they are very fun. This isn't going to live up to something like the House of the Dead 2, but that was never the expectation of this game. All I had to do was be better than the original Death Crimson, and honestly, getting a colonoscopy would be better than playing that game. And some of the enemies in this game are absolutely hilarious. You want to keep playing the game to see what's going to happen next. There's also mission mode where you can just take on the missions in any order you want with any difficulty. And then of course you have the story mode, which is the one I would definitely recommend playing. That is where all the translated fun comes here. But however you decide to play this game, you owe it to yourself. If you're a Dreamcast fan, if you're a light gun game fan, if you're a fan of weird Japanese games, now go out and play Death Crimson 2 in English, because even if you've checked it out before, you really would have no understanding what's actually happening in the game. Now we know exactly what's going on at every moment in time, and I am actually surprised at just how cohesive the story is. It may be the most thoroughly developed aspect of the entirety of Death Crimson 2, and Ateam and his friends didn't stop there. There's an entire bonus content menu as well. There's a lot of fun in here, and to celebrate needless things, and trust me when I say a needless translation, I mean it in a loving way. I'm so happy this exists. I'm going to give you one more snippet of music from one of the bonus videos on this disc, and I'm going to make you watch it from start to finish because it's that damn good. Enjoy!
Hi everyone! Today I play my Dark Histories song from Death Crimson. It's a game of music. Actually, the game is fucking. But the music is amazing! please listen to my composition. Okay, here I go. Death Crimson main theme.
For all 10 of you that didn't turn this video off while you watched that entire thing, I'm so glad that you did because the music in this game is outstanding. And I left that in its entirety because I figure why not be weird for weird's sake, which is exactly what Death Crimson 2 is trying to do. And now that it has a full English translation, you can 100% understand exactly what's going on, laugh along with the story, have a fun time, and play a game unlike anything you've ever experienced before. So it's for all those reasons and more, the Death Crimson 2 translation is a 10 out of 10 and we are done. Bye bye.